All right, welcome to the afternoon session of the Lane County Board of Commissioners meeting for September 15th, 2020. We have Commissioner Sorensen on the phone and Commissioner Bozovich will be here. There we are. Okay, so we're all present. We will start with item 12A on our agenda, which is a public hearing and order 20-09-15-05 in the manner of annexing territory to the Lane Fire Authority to provide fire protection service to the annexed territory, consisting of a 6.03 acre parcel identified on tax lot 500. This is a public hearing on the matter, giving an opportunity for those to present to enter information into the record. And if the board approves the proposal, they can adopt a final order on the annexation. And the decision criteria for the special district annexations are established in the Lane County Board Order 07-12-12-19 and are cited in the agenda cover memo and attachment. Right now, I'll call for disclosure of board member ex parte contacts and for any abstentions due to conflicts of interest, ex parte contacts, or bias. Are there any from the board?
I have none.
I have none.
Commissioner Bozovich?
I did hear from the applicant of this annexation just to ask a question about process, and I just answered the process question. I don't feel that biases my ability to rule on this particular annexation.
Very good. Okay, so I'll call for any challenges to the hearing authority's qualifications to hear the matter. Are there any challenges? Right, I don't hear any. So I'll open the public hearing, and now we will hear a report from staff, which we have Rachel Surslev, Associate Planner, with us.
Thank you, Chair Buck, and good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Rachel Surslev, Staff Planner for the application. The request before you today is the annexation of a single tax lot to the Lane Fire Authority. Specifically, the property being added to the fire district is a 6.03 acre parcel identified as Assessor's Map 160631, tax lot 500, located off of Poodle Creek Road. This annexation request, if adopted as proposed, amends the fire district boundary of Lane Fire Authority to include the petitioner's property. The petition was initiated pursuant to ORS 198.857 for annexation of a single property by a single landowner and pursuant to Lane County Board Order 07-12-12-19, which provides guidance for processing applications related to special district boundaries. Lane Fire Authority Board of Directors adopted a resolution approving the annexation of the subject property with Resolution 2019-20 number 9, dated May 21st, 2020. In the agenda cover memo to the board, staff evaluated the approval criteria at ORS 198 and found all approval criteria for the request are met. Public notice of this hearing as required by ORS 198 was posted, published, and mailed, and as of today, no written comments have been received. With that, staff recommends that the board approve the proposed annexation, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any applicants' testimony? I don't hear any. How about testimony of persons in favor? Don't hear any. So testimony of other people? I do not hear any. And I'd ask for additional comments by staff, but I think you said everything you needed to say. And no applicant rebuttal at this point if there aren't any testimony by other people. So just one last call of testimony from anybody out there that's interested in this particular subject. Okay, I don't hear any or see any. Oh, was that somebody? That might have been a dog. Okay. That was the dog's testimony. It's okay. So at this point, we will close the hearing. Any discussion here by the board? We have several options in the memo. We can adopt the order as written, direct staff to modify, leave the record open if we wanted. At this point, I don't see any need to do that, which is why I closed the actual hearing. So if there are any comments or questions or motions. Commissioner Bozievich.
So seeing the applicant is voluntarily offering to be annexed and pay additional taxes into a fire district, I'd like to move approval of Order 20-09-1505 in the matter of annexing territory to Lane Fire Authority.
Second.
Right. I have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Bozievich, second by Commissioner Berney. Any discussion? I don't see any, so we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to item 12B, which is order 20-09-15-06 in the matter of setting a public hearing to consider the proposed legalization of a portion of Gillum Road located in Section 8, Township 17 South, Range 3 West of the Willamette Meridian, and which with us is Michael Blume, Lane County Surveyor. Is staff available for this one?
Chair Buck, this is Diana. It looks like Mr. Blome has come in a different area. Let me reach over and unmute him. He's in the attendee area. Hold on.
Okay.
Jay, I have unmuted you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. We're asking the board to approve a public hearing date of October 20th, 2020 at 1:30 p.m. time certain to allow for public testimony prior to the board's decision on whether to legalize a portion of Gillum Road located in Section 8 of Township 17 South, Range 3 West of the Willamette Meridian. If the board approves legalizing the subject portion of Gillum Road, it will become a county road. You may remember that the board gave approval for staff to move forward with these proceedings on August 18th, 2020, pursuant to order number 20-08-18-14. A public hearing is required for the legalization process per ORS 368.206. Setting a public hearing date of October 20th will give staff ample time to provide public notice of the hearing in accordance to the requirements set forth in ORS 368.401 to 368.426. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners? All right, I don't hear any or see any. Is there a motion to approve order 20-09-15-06 as presented?
So moved.
Moved.
Second. You.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Berney, second by Commissioner Bozievich. Any discussion? All right, I don't hear any or see any, so I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We moved through those fairly quickly.
Thank you.
At this point, we have an executive session next. So I will read us into that, and just note for commissioners, there's a separate login entry. So we'll exit this meeting and we'll move into the other meeting. So I'll read us into that, and then hopefully we can meet in the other meeting at 1:50. So the Board of County Commissioners will meet in executive session to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660, subsection 2, subsection A, which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive session for the purposes listed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. We reserve the right to come back out into public session should the need arise. And we do see that need today as we have additional items on our agenda to review after the executive session. Okay, with that, I'll see everybody in executive session at 1:50. Thank you. We are. Welcome back, everybody, to our afternoon session of the Lane County Board of Commissioners Board Meeting for September 15th, 2020. We are on agenda item 14A, which is our discussion on the County Council's 2019-2020 Annual Performance Evaluation Rating and Goals for the upcoming year. With us is Alana Holmes, our Chief Human Resources Officer.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Good afternoon. We're here today after holding an executive session for discussion on County Council Dingell's 2020 performance evaluation. Coming out of executive session, I'm just going to briefly go through the agenda item for our public-facing audience. So you have been asked to discuss the 6th annual performance of our County Council, evaluating that performance, coming up with performance ratings and goals for the coming year. This review period is from August 1st, 2019 through July 30th of 2020. And Human Resources did provide the board with a summary of 360 survey evaluation information, as well as a self-evaluation from County Council Dingell for your information. The board goals that I think are really important to keep in mind here is the annual performance evaluation process and feedback does relate to the strategic plan. Strategic priority number 4, our people and partnerships, to provide a safe, healthy, and inclusive work environment that attracts and retains diverse types of workforce.
Can we remind people to mute, please?
Thank you. If you could mute if you are not currently speaking so we don't have the feedback, that would be great. As we look at the options for the board coming into this session, I will hold on those until the end if you don't mind, and I can bring those up after you've had an opportunity to share your comments in public. I'd like to do a real quick high overview for our audience, our public audience, on the evaluation itself. Evaluations were sent to 101 reviewers with 40 returned, equaling a 40% response rate. Of that, the responses included community partners, customers, peers and colleagues within Lane County, direct reports, and others. These surveys rated the core behaviors of passion to serve, driven to connect, and focus on solution as exceeds with the 3.62, and the leadership competencies of people leadership, business leadership, thought leadership, and communication effectiveness was rated as exceeds of a 3.57. And then the remaining, so those two scores are worth 25% each towards the total rating, and the remaining 50% of the review is the balance of your consideration and feedback. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to you, Chair, for discussion for all of you, and then I'll come back at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. To start this off, I want to make sure I give an opportunity to Mr. Dingell, if you would like to say anything for our commissioners and our public audience.
Chair Buck, thank you, and other members of the commission. As I said, it's been a challenging year. It's been a different year because of the COVID, but it's always an honor to serve the board and the people of this county as the chief legal officer. I'm very happy with the folks that I have around me in terms of my attorneys. As I said during the exec session, until something like this happens, you don't realize how much of that, like I said, synergistic effect, the good advice that you get bouncing things off folks, how much that goes away. Having said that, I think my office has remained very close. But just to say that again, it's another year. It's a completely different kind of challenge from anything else that I've experienced in my 30, I'd rather not say how many 30-some years of legal practice. And in that sense, it's been, like I said, somewhat invigorating. That's really all I have, and I'm prepared to answer questions or listen to the board's comments.
Very good. Is there a commissioner that would like to add some comment? And Commissioner Sorensen is on the phone, I believe.
Yes, I guess I'll start by saying I thought the board's discussion in the executive session with Mr. Dingle was good. I think there's always areas of improvement that people can make, but I think it's also fair to say that as I have been on many different boards with many different types of lawyers representing those boards and those organizations, Mr. Dingle gives a really exemplary service to the department directors, county administrator, and of course to all 5 commissioners. He's available by phone, he's available by email, he works very diligently to stay in touch with the concerns of people and very proactive in trying to solve problems. He's also an expert on Oregon County government law and is really able to proactively deal with problems. The total cost of the Lane County Legal Counsel's operation in the approximately 24 years I've been a commissioner, it's roughly been cut by 40% in the time that Mr. Dingle has been county counsel. And that's because of the proactivity of acquainting managers with their responsibilities, putting more and more material on the publicly available website, and solving problems before they become problems, and bringing the workers' compensation matters into in-house was another big savings as well. And I think the major outside counsel that we're routinely retaining would be for bond counsel or for very specialized litigation that we're involved in. But other than that, it's being handled in-house and efficiently. And the total number of cases, I believe, has been reduced because cases that are brought by meritorious plaintiffs are settled relatively promptly, and cases that we need to defend are brought to trial and conclusion as soon as we can, and we win most of our cases. So thanks very much for this opportunity to give a positive review on Mr. Dingle's service.
Any other commissioner would like to make some comments? Commissioner Farr?
Thank you, Chair Buck. It is almost impossible to follow Commissioner Sorensen's in-depth analysis, in no small part because of Commissioner Sorensen's experience both as a commissioner and as an attorney. So I'm not an attorney and I don't have as much experience as a commissioner. What I will state is this: we were asked to look at Mr. Dingle's performance in terms of his core behavior and in terms of his competency in 6 basic areas: his passion to serve, his drive to connect, his focus on solutions. That is his core behavior. I agree with the other people who evaluated Mr. Dingle. He exceeds expectations. On competency in his people leadership, business leadership, and communication effectiveness, I agree with the other people who evaluated Mr. Dingle. He exceeds expectations. Mr. Dingle, I've said this to you private and I'll say it in public. You make my job as a county commissioner easier to perform effectively. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Commissioner Bozovich?
Well, I'm not an attorney and I didn't sleep in a Holiday Inn Express last night. But I'll just echo both Commissioner Sorensen and Commissioner Farr in my analysis that Council Dingle's performance exceeds expectations. I've watched us change our culture over time under his leadership. And that's not just in the county council's office where we changed the culture of farming everything out and not being very effective in how we dealt with legal issues. But we've also gotten to where we've changed the culture of how our managers and supervisors deal with the people they supervise. And that has been a huge change here at Lane County. It's done a lot to improve the atmosphere and the working conditions of the employees. It's done a lot to change just the whole number of grievances we've had and the level of where those grievances get settled. And I just, that's been a huge piece of what Mr. Dingell's brought to Lane County, is just getting a more professional outlook on how we deal with our employees, which has really helped morale and performance here at Lane County. How do you put a financial number on that? You know, we can put financial numbers on other things, like how much outside counsel cost he's saved us, how much he's reduced our claims in our workman's comp, and dealing with that by bringing it in-house and being a little bit more proactive than letting things just fester as they had been. So you know, we can put some numbers on those, but you just can't put a number on the change in culture that he's helped us, along with our county administrator, imbue here at Lane County in how we deal with our own people. And that's been a big change. I just want to say thank you for that change.
Commissioner Burney.
Well, first, I want everyone to know that I yield to the decades upon decades upon decades of previous experience of the three commissioners that have just spoken. I would like the public to know that in executive session, by the way, Mr. Dingell, you have branded upon my forehead never to repeat what occurs in executive session, and you began your remarks by quoting what you said to us in executive session. But I would like the public to know that we had a very frank discussion. Thus far, the comments suggest that Mr. Dingell walks on water, but I would like the public to know that in our discussion, it was clear that he would get his ankles wet when doing so. And we discussed areas for improvement. And within the context of that, I too, on a personal level, am very appreciative for his unbelievable responsiveness and access and sound legal advice the multiple times I have requested it.
Very good. I'll add that I wouldn't say anything in public that I wouldn't necessarily say in executive session. So just for the benefit of the broader community that may be watching, I did bring up some criticism, and that was specifically surrounded by making sure that we get both sides of the argument of any particular subject that comes to us in the board for either a decision or a policy discussion. I feel that there is room for improvement there. And it's really important to me that all commissioners get all aspects of the legal advice necessary to make decisions. Without that, we cannot make good decisions for our broader community. And for that reason, I did express my criticism. I did also want to acknowledge that over the past years, we do have significant improvement in our legal department in-house. I want to make it clear that from everything that I heard, I was not a commissioner at the time when that was brought in-house, but at the time it was in very poor shape, and bringing it in-house was a good decision. It's a good decision for the county, taxpayer money, and the broader community. I just don't want to hang our hat on that low bar forever. I want us to be able to continually improve as we each individually do that in our own professions. With that, is there any final comment from any commissioners or any response from Mr. Dingle?
Yeah, Chair Buckwith, the one thing that I did want to make absolutely clear that there were a number of different programs and different things that were cited by commissioners. It is a team effort. Again, I cannot emphasize enough the work that's done with the workers' comp program. That's Ms. Rollins. She runs that day to day. She's taken over that program and improved it from where it was. Same thing with risk management. That's Ms. Lacey. My attorneys, Jim Cheney on contracts, Ms. Nagel's doing human resources work or labor relations work. Mr. Clark doing the land use, the cooperation that's necessary with not just within my office, but for example, Commissioner Bozovich mentioned the managing within the law training. That cannot happen without the cooperation between County Council and Human Resources. The reduction in grievances and how far they go and those sorts of things can't happen without a good working, trusting, professional relationship between County Council and Human Resources. So I just want to emphasize that the accolades that are sent my way should be much more broadly spent. I do work a lot, but I can't be everywhere. I can't possibly hope to handle every single workers' comp claim and leave that claimant satisfied. Again, I just want to make it clear, it is a team effort, both within my office and with the other departments, and to a certain and also including our external partners. There's some things we just can't do unless we can work cooperatively with outside partners. And I just want to make that point. It sounded a lot like. It makes me uncomfortable when I hear that much about me.
Thank you. Any other final comments from commissioners? All right, I'll hand it back to you, Alana.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners. So I just want to, based on your conversation, go over what your options are in the packet. One, to instruct me to move forward with creating a board order that will document County Council Dingle's performance and performance ratings and somewhat of the goals that at least you've described so far for the upcoming year based on today's discussion. The second option would just be that you ask to continue in more discussion around County Council's performance before me moving forward with a board order. Based on the conversations that I've heard today, Human Resources recommends that the board instruct me to move forward creating a board order that will document the County Council's performance rating and goals for the upcoming year. And as this discussion has happened in this session, I would recommend that the board order be placed on the consent calendar.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to that effect from any commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
I got it in there. So moved by Commissioner Bozovich, second by Commissioner Sorensen. Is there any discussion? All right, I don't hear any, so I'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Holmes.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners.
With that, we'll move to item 14B, which is Order 20-09-15-07, in the matter of delegating authority to the county administrator to make limited compensation adjustments to address pay equity, compression, and inversion. And we still have Ms. Alana Holmes, our Chief Human Resources Officer. You can introduce anybody else you may have with you.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Hello, we're here this afternoon on the matter that you've described. What I'd like to do is introduce Diana Sobczynski, who is one of our senior HR business partners with expertise in classification and compensation. And she is going to be the person to walk through the packet and then provide an opportunity for questions and then direction. So at this time, Diana, I'd turn it over to you.
Thank you, Alana. I want to thank Chair Buck and the Board of Commissioners for the opportunity to speak with you today about delegating certain compensation authority to the Lane County Administrator. So the board is being asked to approve this motion to provide authority in exceptional circumstances to the Lane County Administrator to make critical compensation adjustments to address pay equity, compression, and/or inversion as a result of market trends or contractual obligations. The following are examples of the limited actions that we are requesting the Lane County Administrator can take on. To establish, modify, or develop new subgrades to existing salary grades, to alter the steps within a salary grade, and to adjust step placement of positions. Delegating authority to the county administrator for the above limited actions is to improve our reaction time to issues that arise, whether they are a result of recruitment, market adjustments, or collective bargaining agreement implementation. We want to improve our response time and be fluid in making these types of changes. We also want to avoid presenting unnecessary administrative actions to the board. These types of changes are more technical changes. There's not a lot of subjectivity that goes along with making these changes, and they reside within the day-to-day operations within the county. Oftentimes, we are unaware that pay inequity exists until it is brought to our attention. We see compression occur when the difference in pay is too small to be considered equitable. And we see inversion occur when new talent is brought into the organization at a rate that is above current employees who may have more experience in the role or more seniority in the organization. If you look at the continuum of adjustments as it currently stands, technical and administrative types of adjustments are already actions that are being addressed with the daily operations and do not go to the board, such as single equity adjustments and adjustments to minimum wage. The board has previously given authority to the county administrator to sign contracts, execute subawards, execute agreements, and sign contract amendments. The types of changes we are asking the board to delegate are more like an administrative fix as a response to other changes occurring either internally or externally. Oftentimes, these types of changes are a result of outside forces like the Equal Pay Act. When we have these types of changes, we are working within the parameters of an established compensation that the board has approved, such as the decision band method of compensation. We are following our established and board-approved structure methodology. We aren't creating anything new. We are just following our own compensation plans. We are making these changes within the current structure. We aren't creating new policy. We're looking for efficiencies. We all know that time, care, and attention that goes into creating the board packets, and days are busy. We want to be mindful of everyone's time. We want to be able to resolve these issues at the lowest level and move forward quickly. We aren't looking to downgrade salary grades or pay for positions. That's not the intention. It is intended to address issues that arise. It is not intended to circumvent any collective bargaining agreement or APM that informs us how we need to work through pay changes. The Lane County Administrator and Human Resources would provide an annual report to the Board of Commissioners on all changes made by the County Administrator pursuant to the delegation of this authority. We are recommending the board approve this board order delegating authority to the Lane County Administrator or his designee to make certain compensation changes. I want to thank you for your time listening. This concludes the general overview, process, and recommendations regarding this request. We welcome your questions regarding this recommendation.
Any questions from the board? Commissioner Berney.
So help me here. Let's assume that this was already in place. How many board meeting items would that have eliminated in the last 6 months? And what decisions, in fact, are prolonged by placing these items on the board?
I don't have an exact number in the past 6 months for you. But items are prolonged. Typically when they come up, we discuss and we put together the packet, and you present the packet, and it can wait approximately 2 weeks for it to be heard. So if you have a recruitment that is maybe challenged by some inversion that might happen, we can't move forward with the recruitment, and we have difficulty getting the talent that we're trying to get.
And forgive me, right now, the only inversion I'm aware of relates to a weather pattern. So as I'm still, I don't anticipate voting against this, but I'm trying to really understand what difference this makes. Are you saying that you've had experience where recruits have left because this policy right now is not in place?
I know that there is a recruitment that has been challenged, and I believe that is the medical officer for psychiatry. Alana, I see your head shaking as well. Do you have another?
I would just try and speak to Commissioner Bernie's question a little bit. There have been recruitments, and they're typically very hard to fill positions, not general types of positions. More recently, and I would say beyond the last 6 months, that our pay sometimes has been a challenge. And those are some of the areas that when you have had multiple recruitments and you finally have somebody and you think you can work through it, you do want to be able to move, somewhat nimbly to be able to extend an offer. And there, those kinds of challenges at times can have us lose candidates and then have to go back out. And we all know recruitments can take extensive amount of time. So there's the time that Diana is talking about in preparing packets and doing all of the analysis. And then certainly these days, I think of all of your time and the full agendas that you all are carrying as well. And that would be, the time it takes also to go back out and do recruitments. They're timely. The panel interviews are timely, take a lot of time, and there's a lot of cost to do that. So that's just
Thank you both. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners? All right, I don't hear any. So is there a motion to approve Order 20-09-15-07 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Bernie, second by Commissioner Bozievich. Any discussion? I don't hear any, so we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners.
We will move on to item 15 of our agenda, which is Commissioner business and announcements. Are there any announcements from commissioners? I don't hear any. Oh, Commissioner Farr.
Thank you. I just would like to cover a couple of things very quickly. We are obviously in the middle of, we've been talking all day about how we're in the middle of two different emergencies, the pandemic and the raging fire and smoke that we're surrounded by. And in regard to the second emergency, fire and smoke, we have multiple responsibilities that are spread out throughout the jurisdictions. Lane County is operating in large part outside of the city limits to contain fire and to coordinate efforts outside the city limits. Just want to talk very briefly about what is happening inside the city limits. We have two groups of people who are homeless at this point in time. They're the people who have been evacuated, and I believe we have 361 homes have been destroyed by fire. Newly homeless people who are currently in temporary respite or on a waiting list or temporary dwelling. We also have the chronic homeless that live among us. Red Cross has been doing a good job, superb job of placing the newly homeless people, the people who are homeless or evacuee based upon the fire. It's not been the Red Cross's mission to do anything with our chronically homeless people who are predominantly inside city limits, and predominantly inside the city limits of Eugene and Springfield. So the thing that I wanted to mention is that Lane County, as you heard earlier, is helping to provide sites for respite, both overnight and day respite. And we are relying on the cities to help us with the administration and the operation of the facilities. I just want to talk about one specific facility, and there's one that we've been talking about, and that is the fairgrounds. We have a lot of folks wondering why we're not opening more buildings in the fairgrounds. And I'm not going to go into much depth on that. I think other people can more adequately speak to that. Basically, we're constrained by COVID-19, and we're also constrained by staff limitations. Our staff is spread pretty thin at this point in time. So we are working closely with the City of Eugene and nonprofits to provide and operate that particular shelter. I visited the shelter, the overnight shelter, the 2 nights, the morning after the 2 nights it's operated so far, and it's not been filled to capacity. I mentioned earlier, but I want to say this. When I was in there today, the City of Eugene was staffing the front desk in coordination with the county providing the facility, and the people who were at the front desk did a superb job of explaining to me how the shelter operated, how people can get into the shelter, and what the limitations of the shelter were. So I just want to say this, Mr. Mocher-Heisky, Chair Buck, that I want to say thank you to the City of Eugene for the work that they're doing and the continued escalation of the work that they are doing to coordinate efforts with the county to provide respite, shelter, and overnight stay for people who are chronically homeless, who differ pretty significantly from the people who are homeless for the first time based upon the fire. Now, that being said, some of the folks who are homeless for the first time based on the fire don't have a home to return to, ever, until they build a new one or find a new one. Other people return to their evacuated buildings, but they're not going to do that immediately. So we have an ongoing situation with chronic homelessness that is becoming exacerbated by the fact that we have new people in our community who are now homeless and without a possibility of immediate future going back to their homes. So, Mr. Mocher-Heisky, I wanted to mention thank you for doing what we can as a county to make sure that things are happening, and I want to thank the cities for doing their work in escalating their coordination and cooperation with the county in making these things happen. Thank you, Chair Buck, and thank you, Mr. Mocher-Heisky. The work has not yet finished. In fact, it's just barely begun.
Any other announcements? Commissioner Posevich.
I just want to quickly let the public know that the Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting that was scheduled for Thursday at 3 to 5 has been canceled and is being rescheduled because a lot of the participants in that meeting are busy dealing with the fire emergency. So the Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting is being rescheduled from Thursday.
Commissioner Berney.
I want to thank you, Chair Buck, for what I think has been a very steadfast presence with a lot of the, I know in the morning, I'm now joining you at the coordinators meetings at Thurston Middle School, the sit-stat meetings, all the kinds of staff work that is occurring under Mr. Mocher-Heisky. I find it operationally phenomenal. Never enough, because the need is of a magnitude, as Commissioner Farr stated, that is just, it's apocalyptic. It really is. But nonetheless, all that is happening. So I want to thank you publicly. And I also want to state, I don't know exactly where this is. I want to state that I've had the opportunity to speak at length with Congressman DeFazio's staff. They are looking into, and they are now, I hope, in close touch with Mr. Mocher-Heisky and Mr. Rickoff, but looking into our ability to, again, perhaps start tackling a long-term homeless problem by finding solutions to the immediate need that FEMA resources might assist us with. And that specifically, I think, relates to Mr. Mokrahajski's statement earlier this morning about looking for hotels to perhaps purchase, and especially those that are marginal, that have fallen upon difficult times. There might be opportunities here for us to make a permanent long-term impact while attempting to address this situation. So thank you, Chair.
Any other announcements? I do want to express my gratitude to commissioners. This wildfire has encompassed my district and really needs a lot of my time. And so I've solicited Commissioner Burney to help be a liaison with the Incident Command. It affects his district as well. And also Commissioner Bozovich has stepped up to help be a liaison with our own Lane County EOC. I appreciate that very much. And Commissioner Farr, thank you so much for leading on the housing front. This will take all of our effort and a lot of work, and I appreciate your support. We'll move on to item 15B, future board assignment requests. Are there any future requests? All right, I don't see or hear any, so we'll go to review of assignments, which may be limited. Mr. Mokrahajski.
Thank you, Chair. And I apologize, I was a little late for the afternoon session because of the call with business leaders that we had from 1 to 2, which went very well. Nearly 200 participants on that call, so that was good. And clearly a community that is ready and willing to help. So I may have missed something, but I didn't have any assignments from this morning. Did I miss anything this afternoon?
I do not believe so, unless somebody can
And I thank you
remember.
for that.
You missed a lot.
You're supposed to reschedule the Oregon-Ohio State game.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
That's a board order.
I think you are doing plenty, so thank you for that. Any emergency business for this afternoon? Don't see any other business for this afternoon. Okay, don't hear or see any. So we are in recess until our 5:30 meeting this evening. Thank you, everybody.